Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Work Should Feel Good, the show where your career growth meets your real life. I'm your host, Diana Alt, and today my guest, Rebecca Sabogal, and I will be chatting about what it takes to find joy after loss and to step into your calling for your career and your life. With over a decade of experience in organizations ranging from 2 employees to thousands of employees across umpteen industries, Rebecca brings a unique blend of operational expertise, strategy, and mission alignment to everything that she does. She is known for her ability to bring clarity to the complex and excels at helping founders align strategy and their execution so they can scale with purpose. Rebecca is passionate about helping entrepreneurs make their businesses wildly successful on their own terms. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you, Diana. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so glad to do this. I love a good excuse to talk to a friend that I've known for quite some time. And, you sent me your bio. Everybody sends me their bio whenever they're going to be on the show. And I'm like, check, check, check. I have witnessed this in action. Check, check, check. So what I want to start with is, what is the earliest that you remember in your life trying to work on creating operational excellence?
Oh my gosh, so much fun. First of all, operational excellence, when I hear that word, I get like tingles in my spine because it like lights my fire.
I saw somebody else recently say, this is gross. It's like it doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, I have a couple of friends like you that are into it. But anyway, what's the earliest you can remember trying to create operational excellence?
So I'm going to go way back to our mutual launching pad for our career is the Missouri S&T. I worked as a student assistant in international affairs in their Applied Language Institute. And I was brought in as somebody that could organize, coordinate, project coordinate, that sort of thing. And I've always kind of been a doer. I come from a family of very big doers, right? Like there are people that are going to get the job done, a big engineering family. Anyways, I was able to support and work with some of their international programs, most notably probably Celebration of Nations. So I was on the founding committee, which is now a multi-year large-scale community and campus event. I was on the founding committee for that. I came up with and pulled together and executed their international idol competition. And I'm like 19 years old and having the time of my life. And I was like, I didn't have words for what I was doing, but I was like, I love bringing people from all over the world, because we had, close to probably over 100 nations represented at S&T, students from all over the Middle East, Asia, South America, Europe, you name it, Africa, and just being able to work across all those different nations, plus with university faculty and the community. Different members of the local rural community, municipality, and just being able to bring, my point of view, my ideas, and then also not just having great ideas of what could really be impactful, but seeing how working with others, working through others, we're able to put together something that was much greater, more impactful than just the sum of its parts.
And for that, you feel at that young age, like you were a student assistant.
Yeah.
And then 10 more seconds after you said that, you're like running an international program. And a lot of times people who are in student assistant roles are not given latitude to do things like that. They're basically like, can you please fill out my expense report, or, do this admin work, answer the email box. What do you feel like made it possible for you to actually take kind of a more public role in all of that stuff?
Well, I think it didn't happen right overnight, right? Like it was just like there were smaller projects that, you do those, and you do those with your whole heart and your whole mind, and you're open to feedback, right, from great leaders. And then the opportunities come. And I'm going to give a shout out to the people who were there from the very beginning. So Bertie Morgan, Jeannie Hoofer, Stefan Manat, and there are others I'm sure that I'm missing. They were fundamental in my coaching and molding of my young mind and energy, because I had a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, but sometimes getting that into a cohesive way that can be communicated and heard and contributed to by multiple people, right? But I would say it was the timing, it was the willingness and the grit and the hard work to be resilient and to put my best foot, my best ideas forward, but also the opportunity and the platform to do that from the folks who came before me. And I still have, I would say, I have the greatest gratitude and appreciation and love for those folks at Rolla, and who believed in me and instilled opportunity and confidence and care into my young mind and my path. And I would not be where I am today without them. 100%.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was 15 years or something ahead of you, but I grew up in Pacific, Missouri, about as white a little town that is barely a suburb of St. Louis. Like we didn't even think of it as a suburb of St. Louis when I was a kid. I think people do now.
Yes.
But I come to this college and I jumped face first into everything. And my dad, who graduated from there, then taught at community college for decades and then came back and was a lecturer after he retired because he was very bad at being retired. He used to say that I majored in extracurricular activities, but they put chemistry on my bachelor's degree and engineering management on my master's degree. So what I use all day, every day is, yes, like the actual academic work taught me how to think and how to analyze better than anything else that I could have imagined. But it's all the leadership stuff and working with all the different kinds of people that are why I can do what I do now. And I think the same thing happened for you. So now you went into international affairs, which 100 countries or whatever.
Yes.
Did you have much exposure to very many other people of other nations and cultures before that? Because we're in a town that it's like middle of Missouri. So on the one hand, you don't think of diversity, but it's a university town. But I don't know how much you mixed or had very many kids from other cultures in your school. Like, how did that play out? What was your prior exposure to international students?
You hit on a really great point, Diana, and people have asked me that before. And I love to tell the origin story, kind of my origin story of loving international affairs, people from all over creeds and nations and backgrounds and thought processes, because it's really an essential part of who I am on a very natural level. It's not forced. It's not something that came to be because ESG, or equity, inclusion, that sort of thing became to forefront about 5 years ago. I was, this is something that's a part of my DNA as a human being since the time I was a young person. So to answer your question, to tell the story, we have to go back to my life as a young person in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. I was about 3 or 4 years old. My dad was at the University of Illinois for a PhD in civil engineering. And my parents, who are well above their time and forward thinking and just who they are as people, intentionally chose to go to a church that was very diverse. It was about 50% Caucasian, 50% African-American and African, and multicultural, and very big on missions. And so my exposure as a young person in church, and also I lived in a neighborhood that had quite a bit of diversity. I was homeschooled. And so my majority of folks that I interacted with were people that did not look, think, or talk like me, that came from different religions, backgrounds.
It's such a privilege.
It was such a privilege. And my parents, early 90s, were just incredible folks who did that. It was just part of their DNA. It wasn't to do some quota or to be impressive. It's just like who they were. And not only did they expose us to that, but they invited folks into their home. For my dad's PhD program, folks from Argentina, from Bangladesh, from all over the world, Arab-speaking countries, people that normally Midwestern, conservative folks don't necessarily get to see a lot of in small town Missouri. But my exposure was, I would say, really atypical. It was more like somebody from a bigger city, well, on the coast. And so I grew up thinking, like, when I went to public school in 7th grade in a very small Midwestern American town, I was very frustrated and felt perplexed why it was so white. Most of my friends were not, and still aren't to this day, don't necessarily look or are from the same background as me, because that's what I gravitate towards. So that's my origin story, and it's continued to this day. So
yes, I think that's so exciting and cool to hear
yeah.
that someone your age we had that, like at that 3-year-old age, you had that experience because, and especially in a church, like I love that your parents went and found you a church that was mission based and diverse, because I feel like there are many churches like that, but there are also many churches that are basically a bunch of white people in a rock and roll band at
Yes.
the beginning.
Yes.
It's like a show. And my ultimate thing, like I don't have a church right now because nobody knows what to do with me. It's hard to church shop when you're single and 50. But I want to know what they're actually doing as ministry, not
Yes.
just sending money, not doing missions tourism, which
No.
like if that's the only exposure you can get, that's fine. I don't think it's bad for people to go on the 10-day mission trip to Cambodia to build
Yeah.
a school or whatever. But what are you doing in your town?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing in your town? Are you an echo chamber or are you reaching out into your community? So, wow, I didn't know we were gonna go to church, but that's why these conversations are so freaking fun, right?
They are so fun. I think on one more point before we move on is that Sunday is, I've heard, one of the most segregated parts of the American experience. Like Sunday is one of the most segregated, still to this day, parts of American culture. You know, and so I'm very thankful that we didn't have that. And so, yeah, and kudos to my parents for being trailblazers, not because it was the end thing to do, but because it was who they are and their values, and they gave that to us.
Suddenly I want to hang out with your parents.
They're super cool.
We should make that happen sometimes.
We should.
So you have been a huge example to a ton of people for navigating loss without losing your joy for life. Like, I'm just going to hit you over the head with that.
Thank you.
Because it's important to talk about. You and I are uniquely qualified for that. You're kind of a role model to me, actually.
Thanks.
But can you talk a little bit about your experience with loss, whatever you're comfortable sharing, and even more importantly, how you clung to your identity as a joyful person that's going to basically produce good in the world?
Oh, wow. That's a big one. Oh, well,
to work should feel good. We ask big questions here.
That's such a good and critical and poignant question. So Diana and I are particularly qualified because we're both brain cancer widows.
Yeah.
Diana, I don't know, I want to share too much of your story, but we both lost our husbands, or our first husbands, very early, under the age of 40, right? Andy was under 40. Yeah.
He was just turned 40.
Okay. So under 50, early young widows. And I lost my first husband, Gonzalo, to a glioblastoma, which is the most aggressive form of brain cancer, in 2023, while walking that journey with him through diagnosis with a 2.5-year-old, and a newborn. And so during that journey, he was such a light in my life. He was an incredibly brilliant software engineer, a stable force in the world, a man of few words, but of action, just kind beyond belief, but didn't need to say anything. Like he commanded respect and integrity wherever he was and whoever he was with. He was persistent and diligent and hardworking and get stuff done kind of guy, not a talk about it, walk about it.
I didn't meet him very many times, and I felt like I never heard from him when I did, because he was always doing something.
Yes.
So he's always taking care of making sure things were going. So.
Yeah. So going through, he was an incredible human, and he was my dance partner. He was my international travel partner. We were navigating our early 20s, home ownership for the first time, careers, children, our first 2 kids. And we're just smacked upside down with this horrible brain cancer diagnosis. And, I think one of the things that is a hallmark, maybe it's just a personality thing, but also I think it's something people can learn, like any skill you go to the gym for, resilience is something that I think was bred into me by very strong, I would say, Midwestern stock parents, German descent, German English descent. And, they're folks that, we descended from immigrants from the old country. And they're folks that no matter what life hits them with, are going to get back up and pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, never give up. And even if it's hard, you just keep on going and you trust in your faith in a higher power. And for me, it's God. And, know it, you can't do it on your own strength. And I also have a very strong understanding, I think, that the world is not perfect, that this is a temporary, short life, that we are given gifts and opportunity. And it is my job to take those skills, gifts, and opportunities and use it to be the best impact and service I can to the world and those around me. My calling is to love people well and do good and use those gifts that I've been given in my personal and professional life to try to do that. And I think part of it is understanding, one, how you grieve, but through how you most naturally express. And for me, I like to share and give meaning to whatever we've been through to help others along their journey. Because I know for me, if I am going through something or I want to learn something, I know that somebody else has gone there before and I can go and find that roadmap from their journey. And so my life and light can be a beacon of hope, but also a roadmap and a journey to get from point A to point B to help folks who've been through a hard time. That's my honor and most humbling privilege.
You're like a lighthouse. You're like a lighthouse. So keep people from crashing onto the rocks so that they can go and do what they needed to do. I think you said a few things that I think are really important in that. Number one is that it's like, this is a decision. Like, you knew a calling.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. You have to decide to do something with it. You can have whatever download, you can make the decision that this is what you want to do. You can feel like from a higher power that this is the calling on your life. I don't care what you call it. You still have to decide to actually go about it. And one of the stories I tell people about decisions a lot is, so my husband, Andy, was also a brilliant software engineer. Like Gonzalo, maybe they're hanging out. Like,
probably.
Who knows? But they both were very solid people. We married well. Both of us married well. And my husband was not around as long after diagnosis as yours, because he had issues. And then we found out we found out that he just needed me in the hospital. And then we found out, oh my gosh, there's stuff on his cerebellum. And then we had to have surgery. And then we got a diagnosis, and he was dead like 17 days after we got the diagnosis. We didn't even start, no chemo, no nothing. So it was like not unexpected, since there was a brain cancer diagnosis, but it wasn't expected that fast. So it was a little bit of a whiplash situation.
Sure.
But I remember after he died, which happened in a hospital, they take you to the little room where they take people whenever their person died. And because they don't want you freaking out other people in the hospital, and they want to give you some space. I was in that room and I was by myself for a very short period of time, because my in-laws had gone to like find my husband's sisters, I think. And then I was waiting for a friend to show up, and I was kind of like in the corner on the floor in kind of a fetal position.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I just had a moment where I made a decision to live a great life.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
I don't know how good I'm doing, but it's still an aspirational. And it was a decision that I made in a very difficult time. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. And now I just go try to live an awesome life to the degree that I can, which is not easy. It's not easy. I have many blessings that make it easier for me in some ways than it would be for other people. But yeah, it's not easy. That's hard stuff. So, you really went through quite a lot with a lot of grace while it was going on.
Thank you. Thank you.
So talk to us about what kept you sane and grounded when you were in the middle of this experience and then after Gonzalo passed, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness. I think sometimes, of course, you don't see everything on social media, right? I mean, we present our most polished self. So there are moments, I'm not going to hide that from people, that I definitely had a hard time. This was a very long journey. For context, we had people living in and out of my house to help take care of my husband for over a year. So his family is from South America. In the South American culture, it's very hands-on, family loving, very caregiving, very caring, and very hospitable. And I would say that I have nothing but, looking back now, gratitude for how much that has grown me, and the perspective Gonzalo's family and friends have given me about what it means to truly love, to serve, to sacrificially love and give, not for appearance, but because it is part of your DNA, what you do without no one's looking. And so, but during that time, I think, there is a skill that I have learned. And I think if everyone in the world could do this, and everyone has the capability to do this, but it's a very simple skill. And that is being able to pause and be mindful of the feelings and not vilify those feelings, but to be able to look at them, hold them, evaluate them, and say, is this a reality, or is this something I'm making up in my head? If it is reality, is it something I can do something about, or is it something I just need to let go, like let it pass? And feelings themselves are not wrong. It's what we choose to do with those feelings, for better or for worse, that is the wrong, right? You can have a bunch of thoughts and a bunch of feelings all day long, every day, but you are not those thoughts and feelings. They can be visitors that,
I love that idea of feelings as visitors, especially because I remember a few years ago, I had started therapy at the end of 2020 because the pandemic was pandemicking. I lived alone, and basically there's apparently a psychological thing that about 6 months into any major crisis, people break down. We all collectively did it globally, about a 60-day window. Yeah. And so in my case, I was just like, I gotta get help here. I don't know if I'm gonna make it if I don't.
Yeah.
And I actually, my therapist taught me how to name my feelings. Like, he literally sat, I paid the man to define, here, according to psychology, are the feelings or groupings of feelings. This is anger, and this is what anger means. This is sadness. This is what sadness means. This is fear. This is what fear means. And he told me about 2 different kinds of fear, so I could figure out which one I was feeling. Yeah. And one of the most useful things he said is that, especially anger, you can process that in about 90 seconds. If you will, instead of trying to shove it down, if you will just hear it and process it, because the definition of anger is either wanting something that you're not getting or getting something that you didn't want. That's what causes anger. So sitting and thinking about, what is it that I wanted that I'm not getting, or I'm getting that I don't want, and just naming that can sometimes help you go to a solution.
Yeah.
Other times just de-escalates your nervous system and things like that. So I find that notion of feelings as visitors very important. I also think contentment, not complacency.
No, different.
But contentment is super underrated.
Yeah, there's a saying, and I don't remember who says it, but it's from a Stoic philosopher, I believe. And they say the richest man is the man who wants the least.
Yeah.
And that is so key. And that, getting to that point of surrender and being at peace and joy, but also wanting to do things in my calling and being a vessel to do good in the world, being at that point, it has just been a life-changing thing for me. Because when we hold on to things that are not healthy and not in alignment with that, it's a lot harder to be used to your greatest potential, because your brain is full of other things. Fear, pride, selfishness, a bunch of things that aren't going to help you as much. People think they are. It's actually counterintuitive. You think if you hold on to those things, you're going to get farther to where you want. But it's not.
It's the whole analogy of the person that, there's a vase, and then there's something that you want inside the vase. And if you put your hand in there, you can't get it out.
Yeah. It's
You
like a
can't
cat. Like,
but if you stick your hand out and then pour it out,
yeah.
like if it's money or,
Yeah.
stones or something like that. I think that's a powerful analogy. People try to hold on to things that are not theirs. One of my favorite things about the Stoic, because you and I nerd out about Stoicism, that's another thing that we have in common.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about all the Stoics is that they wouldn't care that you don't remember who said that.
Yes, exactly. They do not care.
They're like, oh, you're doing the thing? Awesome. That's the whole idea. You're doing the thing. So
it's not about me, right? Like that's the whole like attitude. It's not about me. It's about the gift and the calling.
Yeah. Things that come to mind when what are some of your other favorite kind of Stoic principles, thoughts, quotes? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. There's two big ones, or I think most people who are familiar with Stoicism, which is just incredible, is letting go of what you can't control. So surrender. It's something that is also a big part of Christianity. I refer to myself as a Christian Stoic, Christian being the foundation, and then Stoic is kind of a part of how I navigate the world. So letting go of what you can't control. And then the second component, which is extreme ownership of how you show up and your choices you make in the world. And for me, that even deeper, if you scratch a layer deeper, is respect. It's respect of God, respect of others, respect of self, from the way I speak, eat, walk, work, interact, hold myself accountable in relationships and accountable in life. Does
it ever get tiring though? Like,
yes.
That's one of the things that I think people say is like, that doesn't sound fun.
It's not sometimes.
I think that it's not fun to not do that either.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, there's another saying is pick your heart, right? And you can use it in the context of everything, right? Like if this is something everyone can probably understand and relate, it's hard to be unhealthy and like be your body inflamed because you're eating in a destructive way versus, going to the gym and having self-control with the portions and the types of food you eat. Not that you're over, you're crazy about it. But you can pick your heart, right? It's hard to be healthy and have healthy habits, but it's also hard to be unhealthy. So the path might feel easier or harder at first, but the outcomes are flipped. If you choose the easy path, the outcome is hard. If you choose the opposite, the opposite is true.
That's really powerful. And I've been thinking about that a lot because when I first started reading Stoicism, which was in like 2018, I think 2018, 2019, I take a trip through the Daily Stoic meditation journal every single year. Plus I read other things. But there was one thing I really struggled with at first. And that is the idea of like when you dig further into the idea of what you can control and can't control, usually you think about that being yourself. Like before you study it.
Yeah.
You think about, well, anything that's kind of inside me, I can control.
Yeah.
But there's a very distinct thing that I've learned and I think is powerful, that you can only control your reasoned choice. Yes. And so the brain versus the body was what was really interesting to me, because there's so much narrative around, well, if you're overweight, you're lazy, or you didn't do this, or, you didn't choose to try to be healthy, right? Which is true for some people, but not for other people.
Absolutely.
But when I read something that said, think about it this way, like you could do everything right, but you could get cancer.
Yes.
Or you could do everything right and you could get hit by a bus or whatever that is. It made it much clearer. And then it took me a little while longer. I struggled with, I made it about the brain for a while, and decisions and stuff, which isn't wrong. But I was like, well, what about people that have some sort of mental impairment? Like if they get dementia, like what is going on with them? And that what happens with them is there's a limited ability to have reasoned choice. It's not like if they're doing weird stuff due to a dementia condition or something similar, it's not like they're doing wrong.
Yeah, of course not.
just literally are not in that time frame, whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 years, they're not necessarily able to make the reasoned choices. Or maybe it's only on very small things. I'm going to have the green Jello, not the yellow Jello.
Yeah, of course.
For the person in the dementia ward. So.
No, of course. And I think everybody's situation is different. There's, this is not meant to be a blanket statement. There's nuance and exceptions to everything, right?
Yeah.
But this is just what I found in my own personal life. And it's not meant as a condemnation or a criticism of anyone. It's just sharing, I think, what has worked for me in my journey. And I have been there. Is not about being perfect. It's about having grace for yourself and others. And just, I think to anybody, no matter where they're at and whether they're struggling, I would just want to come alongside them and give them a hug if I could, and just say, I'm your cheerleader. I want you to do well. I want you to succeed on your terms. What does that look like for you?
You are a good cheerleader. One of my friends, Justin Schenk, has a model that is like the 5 people that you need.
Yeah.
And it's 4 or 5. I think it's 5. It's been a while since I heard him talk about this. One of them is cheerleader. Another one is bruiser. So you need someone that'll kind of like rough you up and hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a mentor. I think another one was a softie, and then like a coach. That's roughly what it is. So you fit beautifully in that cheerleader model, but without being it's important, I think, to understand that cheerleader doesn't mean bobblehead. I think a lot of people mistake that. I can cheer for you and encourage you, but I also can point out to you that you're not serving your own interests, which is an important balance. And it's important to know the role that you're supposed to play with each person too. Absolutely.
I think it's also understanding the intuitive knowledge and wisdom of where are people at and what are they going to hear? Are you is it the right message, and are you the right messenger? Yeah. Because you can have the right message, but if you're not the right messenger for that, and it's not the right time, and that person's heart and head's not in the right place, it's very hard to get that message across.
That is a great point. I think it's really important for business owners in particular, or anybody that's trying to have a type of influence that they're not used to having. Mm-hmm. If you've just gotten promoted or switched jobs or something major like that, and you're in new waters, it's important to understand that you're not always going to be right. You're not always going to be the right person to deliver something. That's okay. And to use the people around you to try to get things done. Mm-hmm. I feel like most of the struggles I've ever had at work have been because of ego. Sometimes my ego, sometimes somebody else's ego. But my guidance when I work with executives, my executive coaching clients, is to really think about getting everybody on the same side of a problem. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to be Rebecca versus Diana or whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's very easy. And this is what I found working with lots of diverse teams and clients and whatnot, is that it's very easy, especially when things are hard, to take things personally. Mm-hmm. and focus on the person or the way that things are said that you don't like versus the common ground, which is the problem or the solution we're trying to build, the product we're trying to launch, the thing that we all care about that unites us. And it is so easy to get distracted and frustrated as a human. But, part of your job, like especially in my role, and I think a lot of yours as a coach, is to help bring people back to the foundational truth and what brings us together. And
the better you are at not having too much of a stake in what people decide, the better off you are. So that's why I think consultants are actually important. A lot of people kind of make fun of consultants, like, oh, they're high dollar and we didn't need that. But sometimes you just need someone that doesn't have a vested interest in what the quarterly earnings are going to be. Yeah. Walk in and help you see things and help you move in the direction you say you want to move.
I 100% agree with that. In fact, I was asked to be a part of a board for organization. And I purposely turned it down because I wanted to keep the role that I have, which is a neutral third party, because I believe that's where I'm most powerful and what they need. They don't need another ingrained team member that, I just feel like I'm more useful and more helpful to the organization in that third party seat.
Yeah.
Neutral seat.
I've never been a person that really sought after very long tenure in anything. So the longest I ever worked anywhere was 5 years.
No.
Before this job, I've now been full-time in my business for almost 6 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right?
I'm so proud of you. I remember when you jumped and did the big leap, and so excited for you, and look at what you've gone so far. That's great.
That was quite a ride, and it was like I was a little bit kicked out of the nest. It was like being a baby bird kicked out of the nest, only I did the kicking. I think
good. You should.
You want to turn around and talk about strategy, like your consulting business, which we're gonna talk about for a little while, is centered around helping people connect strategy and execution and operate well. And I want to first ask you, what do people get wrong in their understanding about strategy in general? Because everyone loves to throw the word strategy around.
Yeah.
But I don't know that very many people actually know what the heck it means.
It's about zooming out to the 1,000-foot or more view and understanding holistically is the current state and then also the future state you want to go to, and then understanding and getting everyone aligned around that, and then developing a plan that aligns and connects all pieces. That your plan should flow across everything, but you should also understand where every person, every function, every piece of the puzzle, the customer journey, the different functions, all how it interplays and who has what roles, so you can execute that strategy.
Yeah. So I like that you said both answers. But one thing that I hear people talk about a lot is they'll say strategy, but really it's projects.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a giant project and a strategy. So the part that you said, strategy is let's figure out the vision, the broad strokes of how we're going to get there.
Yes.
And you fill in underneath with how you're going to actually get that done, I think is critically important.
Yes.
One of the reasons that I have been thinking about this a lot the last few years is the last company that I was at. Well, actually, it goes back to Strengths Finders and one of my job search coaching clients from 2020, roughly. But I had worked with her at my last job. So this client and I had been working through her Clifton strengths because we were trying to identify some additional roles or things about environments that would be important, et cetera. And one day she just looked at me and said, look, we've climbed all over mine. Like, can I see yours? Which I don't have a problem showing people, but I'd never really done it up to that point. So I went back and revisited mine for the first time in a while. And I had a huge light bulb about why I was miserable at the end at my job. I had one boss who really understood how to work with me, and another one that didn't. And the way that this enlightenment came up for me was that I opened up my Clifton Strengths 34 report. If anybody ever wants to do this, like, email me. We can work on Clifton Strengths together. But there's these 4 domains of talents within Clifton Strengths: strategic thinking, relationship building, influence, and execution. And even without having this, as a tool we officially used on our team and things like that, I had a boss that understood that I was a strategic thinker. So he leveraged that. Well, then he got moved to another department. He got promoted and moved to a different business unit. And suddenly I was working for people that did not understand that about me, and they didn't care. Shut up and color. Well, in my top 10 strengths, 6 out of 10 are strategic thinking. 0 out of 10 are in the execution domain. I am a fully functional human. So yes, I can execute. But it was just a picture on a piece of paper of 2 things. Number 1, why I needed to leave, because the leaders did not care. And they thought that you had to earn the right to work on strategy, which is a rant I'll get to in a minute. The other thing is I understood why my website wasn't done. because I have the ability to build a website. Like I'm not great at it, but I have the technical chops to put up a simple website.
Mhm.
And I kept not doing it, but I also didn't feel good about it because in my head, everything had to tie together. If people wanted to hire me, they see my LinkedIn, they see that looks credible, and I just couldn't get it done. And it's because I needed to hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
So I probably would not have a business if that client hadn't said, well, I want to see yours. What are your thoughts? Have you observed that same thing, that people want you to earn the right to go from doing tactical stuff to using your strategic brain?
Yeah, I think every culture and people have a very, especially as you work with more senior leaders, they have a very concrete view of how they feel organizations and people should operate and how you should operate within that culture and the organization.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I loved moving from a big corporation to a startup and smaller organizations, and I appreciate all different sizes organizations, but as you go down in size, you tend to have more freedom and flexibility about how to operate. And I enjoy that immensely because I would say I enjoy 50-50. I think I started my career really, really strong as an executor, just get stuff done that the leaders want, make them happy. But then as I've gone along and as I've learned, it's building the why, understanding the why, and then getting people aligned to drive towards that why, that vision, that strategic thinking. Are we doing things in the most efficient, smart way possible to get the thing done that needs to get done?
Could not agree more. I do think that one thing that leaders have to be very conscious of, they need to pay attention to the people that are showing sparks of an aptitude for strategic thinking, though.
Yeah.
Because if you take someone that has a brain like that and then expect them to spend 3, 5, 10 years doing only execution, never listening to their ideas, they're not going to perform well. If you have the idea that they have to earn the right to do anything that's strategic, they will never earn the right because you've basically taken a fish and tried to tell it to climb a tree.
Yeah. And you're really shooting yourself in the foot at that point, because when you're a good leader, especially of people, part of your job as that leader is to give folks an opportunity to, one, use the skills, but also refine their skills. Now, on the flip side, you do have to run a business. And when you're running a business and you're growing, you should be at a point where everyone's being a little bit stretched, especially as a smaller to medium-sized business, because you don't want to get out over your skis on how much you can afford, right? Because you want to be able to pay people. You don't want to have problems with having capital. And so sometimes we all, especially as we're growing, we all have to do things we don't particularly love and are not good at. For me, I cannot wait for the day that I can outsource some of the deep data analysis and financial modeling type work that I might do for my business and, capital strategy. Can I do it? Yes. Am I slow and do I enjoy it? No. Right. I mean, I'm slower and I'm slower. Yes. And I don't really enjoy it, even though it's something that, it feels like pulling teeth. For me, lead generation, sales, talking to folks, doing the consulting work itself feels like heaven. Right. So like as soon as I can, I would find folks to do the things that I know I need to have to grow the business, like accounting and FP&A, but keep the stuff I love.
I think that really is very applicable for people that are building a business or leading a smaller business. What I would say to people who are managers and executives in more established larger companies, like they aren't starting the thing themselves or one of the first 5 employees, is when it takes a remarkably small amount of leveraging someone's strategic brain when they're earlier in their career to keep them engaged on the job. So if you have someone that is in a doer role, like let's say we're talking about someone that's a marketing coordinator.
Yeah.
Just the act of letting them sit in meetings where marketing strategy is discussed a few times a month can make them, number one, better at understanding what's at stake for their marketing coordinator job.
For sure.
They're working at 1,000 feet and they're wishing they understood 30,000 feet. That gives them a view into it. It also just gives them a break from some of the things that they might be good at, but that's never going to be their zone of genius. So cool.
I think that's really, really, really good. I think also, warning signs might be somebody that seems to be struggling performance-wise. And, before you throw out the baby with the bathwater, I think it's good to have a conversation as to why and what does that person want to do, and building that trust and relationship where you can actually have real conversations, not sugarcoating it and saying you're doing a great job when things are going wrong, but saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Like, how are you feeling about the work? And really trying to give people a chance to shine and put them in the right roles and opportunities and projects to the best of your ability. Because when people are thriving and they love coming to work, your productivity and your return on investment is going to skyrocket. And you as a leader will get, rewarded. And I think people will see you as a fantastic person to work with. Because as you know, Diana, I'm sure people say this, is that they don't leave jobs, they leave bad managers or bad people.
I disagree with that. That's a broad stroke that people like to say. And I think that quote is only valuable from the extent of, if you're the manager, being cognizant that extra time spent on the relationship and understanding of your team can prevent unwanted attrition.
Yes.
But people do leave jobs. They do. I've talked to people all the time that leave. They struggle with it. Sometimes they take a very long time because they really need like a unicorn job. But I've worked with multiple people over the years where the true main problem is that they just have gotten bored with the work that they're doing. Full stop. And especially sometimes they're in smaller organizations and there's just no career path. You have to wait 7 years for somebody to retire before you can do something else. So it's not as simple as saying people don't leave jobs, they leave bad managers. I have a 4-pillar model that I call the aligned cornerstones, the 4 cornerstones of an aligned career. And basically, real quick, the 4 things are the right work, things that you enjoy, you can find flow, it's an appropriate level of challenge, you get to develop the things, develop skills that you're interested in, and you minimize the amount of stuff you hate. Not eliminate, but minimize. Right leaders gets into what we were talking about, but it's about both your boss and the strategic direction of the company. You can love your supervisor, but if you're working for Blockbuster in 2005, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Then there's right environment, which is all the things that make your work and your life work together. So that's paid correctly. That's the ability to have the time and location flexibility. Can I go to my kid's soccer game? Can I take the 3-week vacation to India? All that kind of stuff. And then finally is culture, which I call values in action. So are you actually doing what you say the company values, or is it just crap on the front webpage? Any of those, if they are sufficiently deficient, can be a cause of someone leaving.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people that I put pay under environment. And I've seen people that truly were heartbroken because the only thing that they needed is to make more money to live their life.
Yeah, of course.
They had to leave companies that they enjoyed solely over money. So
I think I need to clarify. Yes, I think there's multiple reasons that somebody could leave a job. I think just for what I've heard a lot of people say, the thing that, and myself personally, the things that have got me out the door quickest has been bad people fit.
I could see that.
There's a lot of reasons and a lot of, combination of maybe reasons why, but I think I should have clarified the fastest and most powerful thing I've seen people leave, and myself, has been bad people fit.
I think that makes sense, because the number one reason people leave is actually they don't see the opportunity for career growth. Like I've seen survey after survey that says that, but that's a slower burn.
Yeah.
Because you can go through a cycle or two of like, well, not this year, but next year, or talk to me in 6 months about the promotion. Like that can take a little while. But if you were like me and you had probably one of my top 2 favorite bosses ever that I worked for, and I handled a lot of shit on that job because I like the boss.
Yeah, of course.
It's gone. And then suddenly there's this person that doesn't understand me and doesn't understand what my domain is even about very well. That got me out the door pretty quick.
Agreed.
Talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So finally, like 50 minutes in, we're getting into it. But I think the journey is really important for people. What are you doing now that you've stepped into your calling? What is that?
Well, about 2 weeks ago, I really more firmly relaunched my firm, Performance Improvement Consultants. I am really looking at ways to add what I would almost call miracle grow to folks' businesses. So I am taking what, somebody that is a great person, they got a great idea, are showing, they're building some traction, but they're running into roadblocks. And I use my vast experience and track record and tools in my toolbox to come alongside them and develop a plan to get them for the next stage. Now, this can be somebody that's, launching their own firm, established, and have 10 to 50 employees. So I would say my sweet spot is 50 employees and under organizations wise. That's why I really like to work in. Not that I can't do more, but that's where I'm finding a lot of my experience and skills, and especially my love for more of a startup, smaller environment really naturally fit and align to come and work in very close proximity with the founder or head leadership team.
My thing that I like to say is my preference when doing B2B work, because most of my work right now is B2C. My preference when doing B2B work is that I want to talk to the people that are writing the checks.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So when I'm not like McKinsey.
No.
So I'm not in a position where you would have me come into a large organization like Oracle or, some of these other Anheuser-Busch or E&Y or whatever. You wouldn't have me come in there and be working at the C-suite level where the people are making the decisions and writing the checks. I would end up working with some VP in L&D or tech or whatever on some coaching or workshops and whatnot. And I'd be at the point where you have to wait for the board meeting in 6 weeks to decide if they're going to approve the SOW with the whatever. I don't want that. I got sick of that. Yeah. So this week I did a short consulting deal. It's like new manager coaching for a sport engagement for somebody. I sold it in less than like 24 hours. It's 4-figure deal. I'm really excited to work with the person. The company, I wasn't working with the C-suite, but I was working with somebody that can make a decision fast. So that was all that I needed. And I love when it is the visionary as well. So
I definitely love the visionary group. I do think as my business grows and evolves and the organization grows, I think my client base will grow too. And that's the way I envision it. This is an evergreen organization. This is something that's going to last hopefully decades. And I want to grow with my clients. So like if I'm...
All businesses should regard themselves as evergreen and changing. That's how you manage to keep going. So when you go into a company, what is an example of what you might hear from one of these company leaders?
We're having trouble. Go ahead, sorry.
They're expressing interest in bringing you in or right after you've launched engagement.
Yeah. So a lot of times folks are looking at growth, right? Because earlier stage, under 50 employees, you're very much in growth. And so the size of where you are and where you are in your size journey also reflects what you need. So right now, a lot of under 50 employees at companies is growth. So finding the ideal client profile, product market fit. How do we, that's from like the sales and product side. Now, you be looking at, if you're building out a team, do we have the right people in the right seats at the right time? Are you ordering, and then also cash, like, are you spending the right money on the things that absolutely bring the best return on investment, because we only have this much. So those are the kind of things that you would probably see a lot of. As you go further down the journey, you have to build the organization to the point where, okay, we're busting at the seams with clients. Now we got to have better systems, processes, and tools to make sure we go to that next level. Let's not slow down on lead generation and sales pipeline lead, but let's intentionally figure out how we're going to scale up so we can 10x our ability to hold those clients. You kind of repeat that cycle and you upscale all your tools and your folks and your organizational capability, and you figure out what works for your clients and also your organization. It's not cookie cutter. It's very much a science.
No, it isn't. Yeah. And it's very interesting that way. It's true consulting, like advisory consulting in its best form, what you're describing. One of the things that I like about it, I like about what you're describing is the different stages of things.
Yes.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you is you're using a lot of language that is commonly heard in tech.
Mm-hmm.
So most people in other industries do not talk about 10xing anything because it doesn't make sense. Like a plumber is not going to try to 10x fast the way a SaaS startup, which might actually be trying to 100x.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you specializing in working in the tech sector?
I am open to where I would say I'm open to working where folks could use me and find that my skills would be useful. But I think more specifically, there is a very good match in the tech sector, but also like professional services firms, marketing firms, accounting firms, and I would say definitely tech, like startup firms as well. Those are like, and also potentially other consultant firms that are not, you know, in my client space. Those are really, I think, where there's a lot of immediate value that I can provide. I really enjoy working with technical people. I went to Rolla. My family's a bunch of engineers. My late husband was an engineer. I've worked with engineering predominant firms and teams most of my life. So there's a natural affinity, I think, for that brain type and folks. But I've worked across professional services, accounting, SaaS, defense, finance. I have a longstanding gig as an advisor for a boutique private equity firm, which I absolutely love. And I have nothing but appreciation for what I've learned and worked with them there. So I work across multiple industries and multiple different team sizes. But I would say, like, the thing is, I know that I know where I've had success and where I enjoy working, but I don't have many doubts that if I found a great person or a great team that had a product or service I believed in, and they felt like who I was and what I brought to the table aligns with what they needed, we're going to find success, because I will not quit until we do.
It's one of those, it's really hard whenever you have that ability to consult so broadly and you have an organization that is brand new, effectively, because you have to be clear, and it can be hard to be clear when you're early on. So I know you'll get there. It's in your head.
Yes, we're working through that still. I mean, I'm scaling and growing my own firm as well
for a long time, and I'm still iterating on that. So I'm going to do a quick. Oh, I have one more question I jotted down.
Yes.
What do you feel like is the biggest obstacle to these? You know, let's say it's under 50 employees organization that you would want to work with. What is their biggest obstacle to that aligned business that you want to help them create?
I would say you need to have people, prioritization, money, and time all in alignment, because you have to make sure you don't in having that out of sync.
Which one do you find is most commonly out of whack?
I mean, I've seen it all over the board, and it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I think most commonly across every industry, it's making sure that everybody is crystal clear on where you're going at that exact moment.
Yeah. So it is having the vision be clear, which to me is, in a company of 50, that is a people problem, in my opinion. Well, if it's a company of 50,000, there's processes that go into place to radiate that stuff out more so than in the smaller orgs.
There's a really great book that I love. It's called Essentialism. I'm going to give it to y'all.
I love it.
It's the best book I've ever read that changed my life professionally. Yeah. It's about the disciplined pursuit of less. And so the thing is, my goal as the organizational leader or advisor would be can I talk to every single person in the organization and they tell me the number one thing that we're working on as an organization, and how does what I do every day support that?
Cool.
That's
amazing cool. Note to switch to our next thing. We're going to do a little bit of a lightning round that may or may not actually turn out to be a lightning round. And then I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to find you, what cool things are going on right now. So, number one, what is the worst piece of career advice you have ever received?
Just be content.
Oh, man. Yes, that makes me crazy. That works for some people.
It does. I mean, but that's not me.
It doesn't work for me.
No, not for me.
What is a personal habit that's helped you be successful?
Knowing exactly the most important things I have to get done that day and doing them.
How many things do you allow to be on that most important list?
It depends on size and scope.
Okay.
It's usually less than 5, more likely 3, but it also depends on how big. I would say less than 3.
Okay. Less. Cool. What is something you've changed your mind about recently?
The Midwest.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more.
I think that I had a bit of frustration. I think I always felt very transparently that I was a person that somehow was supposed to live like on a coast in a bigger city, but life just never went that way. And I felt like I felt like more constrained about, where are the people that are doing the big visionary type things in St. Louis, Missouri? And I have been pleasantly surprised by digging into the local VC and like the different entrepreneurials and the business owners here. I've been very, very impressed with what's going on locally. And I think I unfairly judged my hometown and upbringing and the value of roots.
I remember when you were like doing that little world tour for a while, a couple of years ago, because you were actually going and living places.
I was
a few weeks at a time to try to figure out, and then you turned around and came home.
I did. I met a wonderful man who became my second husband, who love him very much, and he was not expected. We needed each other, and he has taught and helped me grow and heal through a lot of things. I think he could say the same. And I needed to come home to build my life with him and have a great place for my kids.
Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting exercise you were going through. Because to me, you are the world traveling Midwestern girl. That's how I've thought of you. Now, your opinion of you matters more than my opinion of you, though. What is a common misconception people have about the type of work you do as an advisory consultant?
That we are overpaid money wasters.
So what makes that not true?
Because I think the ones that actually can demonstrate value, measure it, and like have something that somebody can say, like, this person helped me organize this, we're able to be this much more efficient, we are able to grow this many more clients, we've improved our customer retention rate, et cetera, like can point to specific outcomes that the work that I've done has led to, then you're worth it, right? And I always try to tie my work to specific outcomes, to measurable metrics. Every plan comes with metrics, and making sure that customer gets way more value out of their interaction with me than I ever cost them.
Yeah.
That's my goal for myself.
It's an interesting thing to try to think about. The work that I do, especially my B2C work, it can be pretty hard. And people are going to say, like, how do I know I'm going to get an ROI from you? And it's really the wrong, like, for what I do, it is oftentimes the wrong question.
Yeah.
I have plenty of examples where I can point to a positive dollars and cents ROI. But when you're trying to find alignment, sometimes the payoff is not dollars and cents or metrics. So it can be a really challenge. You have to do qualitative and quantitative things. So.
Oh, you're 100% correct. I think also, though, sometimes you can just be a sounding board for that leader or advisor. Some of my engagements could look like that, right? Like they just need, maybe their budget isn't huge and they don't need somebody to be down and in the like execution of the work or spending a ton of time, but they just want somebody to send a text or a call. What do you think about this? I'm thinking about that. I think this is great. Have you thought about that? You might want to consider this. You told me this is where you want to go, and being available as call a friend. That's a service I offer too.
That phone a friend thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I include it with coaching programs. I don't understand. It doesn't happen as much anymore, but when I first started coaching, there were a lot of people that were operating under, you get me for 15 minutes, usually on the phone in 2014 when I started doing this, or on Skype, RIP Skype. And that was it. Like you couldn't get any other access. And I don't think that makes sense. I enjoy being a thinking partner to people and reflecting back. And when I do B2B engagements, I really enjoy that. Well, we are just about done. I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can get in touch with you. Are there any special things? This is being recorded at the end of May. I don't know exactly when I'm going to post this because my life is in disarray. But what do you want people to know about? How would you want them to get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. So you can always go to my website. It's up there on the screen. You can email me at Rebecca with 2 C's at performanceimprovementconsultants.com. Local things you might want to be aware of if you're in the St. Louis area. I am offering, as of this time, a limited couple hours consulting for those who are impacted by the St. Louis tornadoes, giving a couple sessions to help businesses get back on their feet. Because while it is May and you may not post this till June or July or August, impact from a disaster like that lasts months. So I want to be available to folks in the area to be a resource, a phone a friend if possible. And I am going to be speaking at a panel this Tuesday with the International Institute of Business Analysts here in St. Louis. But again, that's in a couple days. May not be, this may not be live then. But I've also had the opportunity of participating in an anthology called Threads of Gold. And it's a book of a collection of stories from authors who've been through severe grief incidents and experienced loss. And it's basically our collection of stories of what we would tell a friend on the couch about what, tools or helpful things that we have taken away from our experience. And so more about, I think, some of the stuff we talked earlier, if you want to dive in a little bit more, my journey through grief and things I've learned about the feelings and letting things go and how to work through that, you might want to check this out. It's available on Amazon. I also can provide copies to folks. It's called Threads of Gold, and you can find that on Amazon.
Awesome. Send me a link to that. I'll put it in the show notes on YouTube for that.
Absolutely. I will send that to you.
Well, Rebecca, this has been a pleasure. Always great to catch up with somebody, whether we're recording it for the rest of the world or not. Wish you the best of luck. I was really excited to hear that you had launched your consulting firm. Immediately knew that I wanted to talk to you about that. So thank you very much. And I hope everyone has